Just as the cause of eye problems is at the level of Jing, Qi or Shen, or all three, so you must look at these three levels when you wish to have a cure. I don't want to give the idea that herbs can only treat the Jing, or that acupuncture can only treat the Qi, or that meditation or Qigong can only treat the Shen. This, of course, is not the case. That herbs work on all three levels, that acupuncture works on all three levels, and indeed even Qigong. Qigong can be very beneficial to the Jing, the Qi and the Shen. It's just a question of emphasis, that, put it this way, that herbs are more physical, are more condensed form of Qi, whereas acupuncture works directly on the Qi in the channels, and of course Qigong works on a much more refined form of Qi. So to summarize what we're going to say, to put it into very succinct form, at the level of Jing you can regulate the Zhang Fu. At the level of Qi you need to bring Qi to the eyes and encourage the free flow of Qi in the channels. At the level of the Shen you need to encourage healthy looking activities, and in particular avoid eye straining activities, rest the eyes, and above all look, and look without strain. Now each of these has got their own particular proponents, particular people who promote their cause. So if you read a book about herbal medicine, you would think all you have to do is regulate the Zhang Fu. The prescriptions are there for the Zhang Fu. If you read an acupuncture book, you'd think all you have to do is use acupuncture. If you read a book about the Bates technique, you'd think all you have to do is the Bates technique. But the reality is that different people need help on different levels. Some people need the Zhang Fu regulating. An old person, for example, may simply need a tonic, or a tonic may be the first place to start. A young person might simply need acupuncture to bring free flow of Qi to the channels. But the key to successful treatment is to understanding where is the main problem, which level is it at? Is it really at the Zhang Fu? Is it at the level of the Qi? Is it at the level of the Shen? Once you have established that, then the rest of the treatment is simple, it falls into place. So just as I have 8 subdivisions of the causes of disease, so it turns out there seem to be about 8 ways of looking at the cure of disease also, which approximately translate to the causes of disease. The place I'd like to start is not acupuncture. The place I'd like to start is about the Bates method. Bates was a man who was going blind, and he went from one ophthalmologist to another, and they all agreed, oh yes, you're going blind. I think, if my memory serves me right, he had short sight, and the short sight was getting shorter and shorter, and was leading to retinal detachment. Once the retina is detached, certainly in the 1920s when he was suffering from this, that was it. You're finished. You were blind. He found that his eye problems and his progressive short sight were due to habits of looking. He found that he could change his own habits of looking, and was so excited by this and so excited by the results, and they were so dramatic that he could actually throw away his glasses. He never used glasses again, and he started to teach others how to do it, and it became known as the Bates method. In more recent times, there's been a man called Meyer Schneider who has taken his work a step further. Meyer Schneider was actually born with an eye condition, and after 4 failed operations was declared blind, effectively blind. He could perceive light but was effectively blind. Now, Meir Schneider is Israeli, and one of the great virtues of the Israelis is that they've got a great intensity and perseverance. Well, when he heard about the Bates method, he thought, this is for me. And he's on record as saying that he spent 13 hours a day doing his Bates method. And from being registered basically totally blind, he had to do all his lessons at school by Braille. He now has a Californian driving license. His eyesight isn't perfect, but it's good enough to drive a car. Well, that's not bad, is it? So that shows that the Bates technique, or certainly as further developed by Meir Schneider, can be incredible at curing eye conditions. And the basis of it is just learn to look. Look carefully. Look at what you're seeing. And rest your eyes on things. This is not the place to talk about the Bates technique. You need to find teachers for it. There is an international network of it. Also, Meir Schneider has trained teachers also. The next thing I've put there is about the Alexander technique. I've included that because Alexander technique is the number one for, well, I would say posture, although they say, no, it's actually, it's closer to say it's the free flow of qi in the body. It's not actually the posture. They say it's how you use yourself, and but in terms of Chinese medicine, it's encouraging having the right stance for the free flow of qi. Just as in Qigong, you have to have the right position, otherwise the qi won't flow well. But they emphasize it's the qi flowing well rather than the position. Now, there are some people who say, well, with acupuncture, you can change the posture. And of course, that is true to a certain extent. But going back to the picture we saw earlier of this boy who'd got into the habit of standing with his drooped shoulders and head stuck forward like that, I don't think acupuncture would ever cure him. Maybe it would cure him, but he needs to be taught how to stand up straight, what it actually feels like to stand up straight. Because if he were to stand up straight, it wouldn't feel normal to him at all. So, although in principle, or in theory, I should say, acupuncture might be able to help his posture, Alexander teachers, they specialize in posture. Then the next bubble there is acupuncture. Well, of course, acupuncture is the number one for free flow of qi in the channels. So if there's some leftover obstruction of qi from an accident, if there's a deficiency of qi, any blockage of qi, there's a blockage of qi even due to mercury poisoning, we can encourage the free flow of qi with acupuncture. And so this is like the main core, this is the core of this DVD, is about acupuncture and the treatment of eyes. And I do think acupuncture has a very special place in our society because acupuncture works at the qi level, and as such, it's close to the Zhang Fu. With acupuncture, you can treat the Zhang Fu, you can treat kidney deficiency. Despite what some herbalists will say, acupuncture is every bit as good as herbs at treating yin deficiency, yang deficiency in the organs. But it also has an influence on the Shen itself. The effect it has on making you feel calm is well known. It's very good for so-called stress relief. So acupuncture stands in the middle between the Jing and the Shen. So acupuncture is terrific, and later on we will be talking about particular treatments for particular conditions. The next bubble we got there is electrostim. This is like a new development in the treatment of eye conditions, and electrostim is very gentle electrical stimulation for the eyes. There's a company which produces these things for treating eye conditions. It was specially developed for treating macular degeneration. And there's been a lot of work on its effect on macular degeneration. In the early stages of treatment, if they have treatment like that 3 times a day, it can make a huge impact on arresting the degeneration. In fact, there's a man in California, Dr. Damon Miller, whom you can read about on his website, who specialises that, and he teaches people how to use it, how to use the electrostim. And lots of people, they don't want acupuncture, they're not interested in acupuncture. They're not really interested in improving their health in any way whatsoever. They just want to have the macular degeneration fixed. And this is a good sort of mechanical fix to macular degeneration. You get up in the morning, you do your teeth, you put on your electrostim for 5 minutes, then you're ready for the day. So it's fantastic in that way. It is fantastic. Of course, if you can give some mineral and vitamin supplements, which he also gives, that will also help. If you can give some acupuncture, that's even better still. But even on its own, the electrostim can be of benefit in arresting, or at any rate slowing down, macular degeneration. This apparatus can also be used for stimulating points, individual points, and there are probes specifically for doing this. For example, you might use large intestine 4, or you might use gallbladder 20, and certainly the patients might use this if they experience any headache or tension in the back of the neck. They will find almost immediate relief using the probe on these points. Some practitioners like to give their patients a point stimulation routine, and some patients like to do that, whereas other patients, they just like to do it on their eyes, just very simple treatment on their eyes. The next one is herbal treatment. I don't really need to say very much about that, except to say there are herbs which are very good for treating the Zhang Fu, especially good for treating the Zhang Fu. They're very good for treating arterial problems, for example, macular degeneration to a certain extent, for diabetic retinopathy. Herbs also have a special use there. Also, there's one particular remedy which they have, which is bat droppings, which sounds so much. It's the sort of remedy which gives Chinese medicine a bad name, because you think bat droppings. No, that really is voodoo. But actually, it's not voodoo. The reason why bat droppings can be so helpful for eye conditions is that bats like to eat moths. That's one of their major. That's their staple diet. And moths have got big eyes. They need to have big eyes to see in the dark. But bats don't have eyes, or they can't see. And so all the goodness that's in the moth eyes goes out into the bat excrement. So it's as it were concentrated eyes is what's in the bat droppings. And I think that that's one remedy which Chinese medicine has got, which no other therapy has quite got that. Going round the circle, we've got the supplements. I mentioned it briefly in the connection with the electrostim. For some people don't have an option to live off organic food. It means they have to live on supermarket food. Most supermarket food is deficient in minerals and vitamins. Not the common ones like calcium and magnesium, or teeth aren't usually, but the trace elements like boron and selenium. They're very often missing altogether in the factory farmed foods because the soil has not been nourished properly. And so people may be actually deficient in these other minerals for which traces are essential for good functioning of the body. And so it can be helpful for some people to take vitamin and mineral supplements. Again, this is a specialist area. The supplementation with minerals and vitamins has progressed a lot, or at least there are some very progressive schools. There are some rather old-fashioned ones who just give single vitamins and minerals. But the more progressive ones will take a long case history and find out actually which ones you are particularly deficient in. The next one round the circle is Qigong, marvellous for general health, but there are specific Qigong exercises for the eyes. In particular, there are Qigong exercises which will loosen the neck, which encourage a free flow of liver qi. There are other ones specifically concerned with the eyes, with actually exercising the eyes, exercising the eye muscles, looking near and far. And so the Chinese too have developed a system which overlaps with the Bates technique, because in the Bates technique, one of the things which they do is one of the exercises is to look near and then look far and then look near and then look far to develop the accommodation. So you will find this also in the specialist Qigong exercises. And then last on my list here is what I've called eye bright massage. I called it eye bright after the name of bladder 1, Jing Ming, which means bright eyes or bright seeing. This massage, which involves massaging around the eyes, various different points, it is a subject, there's a special chapter in this DVD on this. This also comes under the category of Qigong, and you will find these massages in some of the older Qigong books as specific Qigong practices for the eyes. But I call it eye bright massage because it's something that the Western people can understand. If you tell people they've got to do Qigong, they may say, "Oh, I don't do that." But if you say, "Oh, here's some massages which can help your eye," they say, "Oh yeah, I'll do those." That's different. And also, these massages were taken by the state in communist China, and all school children were made to do them, because in the 60s and 70s they found that, well then as now, that lots of Chinese needed spectacles, and at that time there was concern that too much of the nation's newly found wealth would go into making spectacles. Wouldn't it be better if they could, if the money could go towards producing little red books or something like that? And so the children in the schools had to do this massages 3 times a day, 5 minutes 3 times a day. And all the classrooms were, when I went there in 1982, all the classrooms that we saw had posters showing how to do the massages. Eye bright massage is actually fantastic. It's very simple to teach, very simple to do, and extraordinary in its results. I recently had a 78-year-old patient who had got glaucoma, or I should call it ocular hypertension is the proper name. She hadn't developed blindness, but the pressure was going up in her eyes alarmingly, and there was a danger of her going blind. The treatment for that is to put drops into the eyes to reduce the pressure. Unfortunately, she had another condition. She was allergic. So she was allergic to the drops which were put in her eyes. Everything they tried caused her intense pain. So she had nothing, she couldn't, the orthodox medicine couldn't be used for her. So she came to me, but she didn't like the idea of acupuncture. And anyway, she couldn't come nearly regularly enough for treatment because she lived some way off and she had to have a friend to bring her. And the whole palaver was all too much for her. She didn't like the idea of taking the herbs because she was terrified that she might be allergic to the herbs and go into anaphylactic shock if she took even so much as a drop of the herbs which I might prescribe. So what else was there for her? Nothing much else. But I said, here you are, you can try these massage, the Eyebright massage. It's helpful in many conditions. So she tried it. For the first month, she did it 3 times a day for 5 minutes. After that, she did it just once a day for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And at 3 months after she came, I had a telephone call from her saying that the pressure had quite significantly dropped. She was now out of the danger zone. There wasn't any danger of having glaucoma. So it's very simple to do, and it can treat even as severe a condition as ocular hypertension, which, of course, the root cause is a Zhang Fu problem. But simply by bringing the qi to the eyes with these methods, you have the chance of curing quite severe problems. Its special use in China was for the treatment of short sight, and I also advise children on this too. It's easy enough for children to learn. It's something they can do, or at least their parents can encourage them to do, and they will soon find benefits for it. Indeed, anybody who's got sore eyes will find they get much less sore if they're tired after a day of work or watching a DVD like this, then do the Eyebright massage. So there we have a summary of some treatments for disease, and you'll see how the treatments of disease, each treatment has got a specific virtue, a specific thing. The Bates method, which teaches you how to use the eyes. The Alexander technique teaches you the feeling of a good free flow of qi in the body. Acupuncture has got this special effect, quite apart from a general cure for the Zhang Fu and for this helping you to calm you down as well. It's got this special effect of getting the qi at the back of the eye. The electrostim has got this special thing that it's easy to use. A cheap box, well, it's cheap for the Americans, not so cheap for us. A cheap box can help, can stop the progressive blindness. Herbs, everybody knows the benefits of herbs in strengthening the Zhang Fu. Supplements, some people need supplements without, even if you're taking herbs, if the minerals and vitamins aren't there in the body, then it won't work well. Qigong is fantastic for the eyes, fantastic for the body, and it's very, very good for the people who find it difficult to include exercise in their daily life. And then finally, there's the Eyebright massage, something easy, simple and cheap, something that's easily taught, and something which is very effective also. Even children can learn it and can help prevent them develop short sight.